Welcome into another edition of Hornet Nation Unfiltered. 3 months into this podcast, and we've already had one Super Bowl champion. From one Super Bowl champion to another, we're joined by former Hornet and Super Bowl champion Michael Coe. Mike, thanks for taking time out of your day and time out of your busy schedule. And we'll tell folks why you've got a busy schedule here in just a minute.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. It's an honor to be speaking to Hornet Nation right now, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, let me tell you, Michael was going to be the first guest we had on here. And when we reached out, we had him scheduled, he had him going. Then all of a sudden, the move came up, and then he was holding back on me a little bit and decided to tell me that they were expecting, and now he has his they have a child in the house. And first question I asked you today when we talked was, "How's the sleep going? Are you getting used to it?"
Yeah, right. No sleep at all. Maybe 2 or 3 hour spurts. Like I was saying, it hits a little bit different when you're older in your 30s for me right now.
Hey, well, you kind of have an excuse on that, because when we start talking about your career, people don't understand, why 36, because when you look at this stuff and you go through and we actively were going to talk about just your time, here at State for a little bit and maybe the Super Bowl. And then we decided to dive in a little deeper, and we went back to your good old high school days at Cordova High School, and you put up some ridiculous offensive numbers.
Yeah.
It ends up being a defensive back. Talk about just that and being in Memphis. Memphis is known for their athletes, and you played football and ran track.
Yeah, I think Memphis is probably one of the quiet little hubs that not a lot of people talk about, but there is a lot of athletes with great potential. A lot of times in Memphis, you think basketball first, but there's so many athletes, raw athletes that kind of play both and end up, going to the next level, playing that sport or coming over. But I was a all-state receiver, and one of the reasons I went to Arkansas to be a receiver. Tavares actually was my host, one of my hosts on my trip to Arkansas. That's when I first got to meet Tavares. Obviously pushing me to come there, being a receiver. So, the move to transition to defensive back wasn't really my own. A couple of DBs went down, and thank God, Coach Womack, Dave Womack, was a D coordinator at Arkansas at that time, and he was like, play man on this guy, play man on that guy during a 7-on-7 period, and I ended up getting 2 interceptions during that period, and that was it. I was a defensive back from then on.
So you go in as a receiver, and I'm just going to read these numbers out for the folks at home, just so they understand the transition from receiver to defensive back. As a junior, you had 20 catches, 675, and 4 touchdowns. As a senior, you were a two-way player, offensive and defensive, wide receiver, defensive back, 1,400 yards receiving, 25 tackles on defense, 5 interceptions, 10 passes defended. You were All-State, All-Memphis, All-Metro, All-Region, All-Conference, and Tennessee Class 5A Offensive Player of the Year. Does that make you go back and just, man, I miss high school?
Oh yeah, for sure. Little embarrassing, got me blushing. I forgot about a lot of that. Yeah, you know what? And also, man, we had Chris Taylor was our running back. Went to Indiana, played six years in the NFL. We had another running back. Lionel Pia that went to Memphis, and Jock Crawford, the other one. There was so much talent on that team, and so just to be a part of something great. Back then, we just cared about winning, and I thought I was going to be the next best thing at receiver. Though I'm not going to lie, that's what I really wanted to do. My dad obviously coached some great receiver, Carl Pickens and Alvin Harper at Tennessee. So, you growing up in that kind of environment, seeing those guys, like, I want to be them. That's who I wanted to be. So that's what I had my heart set on. But, you always keep an open mind when you go into college, too. I try to give that to the young guys. You just never know where your blessing is going to come from. Now, I'm a 6'1" corner, which puts me more or less in a more kind of elite status. But 6'1" receiver, I'm a dime a dozen. So it ended up working out awesome. But, yeah, I do miss Friday nights. I tell you, it was nothing like Friday night football. I mean, you got your community, you got your school, friends, family. Everybody comes around to support you, so you feel that. And it's nothing like Friday nights.
So you go from high school in Memphis and you go to University of Arkansas, and in that transition, when you got to Arkansas, when you got there, Arkansas and what they're known now for is track. Mm-hmm. So I got to throw this caveat in there for you because I know this, and if I make you blush on this one, I apologize. But you got the school record in the 400 meters. If it still stands.
Okay.
And you won the conference title 4 times. Did you ever think about running track in college at all, or was it football only?
No, actually, that was one of the reasons why I went to Arkansas. They had a track team. I was a long jumper at that time as well, and so they actually recruited me a little bit for track. Coach Booth, the field coach, jumping coach there. And once they find out it was football, they didn't give me a full ride or anything like that. Right. It's hard to get one of those. I think Tyson Gay was one of the few guys that got one of those. But yeah, I went out there my first 2 years in the spring. I would come out after football and go over there. But that's when I started making the transition that second year, going over to track. So they had a good deal worked out. Amari Carroll ran and played football. Richard Smith we had, and Eddie Jackson, who had a couple athletes that played on the football team that also went over there to track. So, they used it. That's what they did. They used the track team as leverage to get some of the guys over there, which you can't blame them. All-time winningest track program in NCAA history is still counting. I think at 45 and counting, I believe.
I think it's 45 and counting. I think I quit counting at about 30 because it just you just feel like they're going to win it again anyway. So
right.
And I kid when I say this, but in all seriousness, we talk to guys like Eddie Robinson. We talk to guys like Reggie Barlow. Now we're talking to you. It's amazing to me how, as former athletes, now adult men in society, that you're able to just rattle off names of teammates in college and professional sports. What does that say for a young man or even a young woman right now, what sports mean at growing up?
Oh, wow. Man, I think that's a heavy question because it's so much. I don't think if I can define it and if I try my best, but sports help with confidence. Sports, I know, helps you in marriage just because you have to learn how to interact and work with people who don't think like you, who don't have the same background, maybe education or upbringing as you, not religion. It's a whole bunch of different things, but you have to learn how to put first things first and prioritize that, build common grounds and build from that. So sports itself has taught me so much, resiliency, how to make a plan, how to stick to it, put people in your life that have the same goals as you. When you work hard or even when I was in state, did extra work, I'd bring the guys that were more like me, invite everybody, bring like-minded people together, and it catches on like wildfire because nobody wants to be the guy on the outside looking in, right? When people are doing good things. So, man, sports has taught me so much. And those relationships, because they're built on something, I would say, more sustainable or something more concrete, that you keep those relationships going. Actually, Tyson Gaylor's by me here in Orlando in Winter Garden. A lot of guys actually live out this way that I've made relationships for in college and in NFL. So you kind of keep that bond keeps you. So sports is a big attributed to the person I am right now.
Now let's get back to fun. I didn't mean to throw that on you.
No, it's all good.
You have to dive deep this early in the podcast. I usually try to do it late, but it hit me because you were able to just spit names out, and it's remarkable when you get guys like you and Barlow and Eddie and even the other guests we have that can go back 15, 20 years and remember names of teammates.
Oh, yeah. It is, though, and also I would be remiss if I didn't mention my father because of growing up in that kind of atmosphere. You kind of see how he built relationships and the closeness and, you checking in on guys. I still do that to this day, try to check in on my coaches, Coach Brown, Grady that was there with me. I talked to Lee today on Twitter. So, some of those guys, you keep in touch with them, you follow them. You want good things to happen for them. They was in your corner too. So it's a revolving circle. So never that, it's all good.
Now you leave Memphis, you get to
Yeah,
Arkansas your freshman year, 13 games you make an appearance in, and that's again that's when you had to make the switch over.
you're right, right.
Correct me, in your freshman year, so you made 4 tackles, you defend the pass. You
Yeah,
get to your sophomore year, 8 games, you start 6 at corner, 24 tackles and a couple picks. And then your junior year, you go 11 games with 8 starts, 30 tackles, 3 interceptions. You tie for second on the team. You still register, I think, in the top 70 of the year in interceptions, either
yeah.
in your career or all time at Arkansas. But you playing in the SEC, you got that opportunity. What did that opportunity mean to you just to get that out, even if it was just for 3 years? What did it mean to you?
I mean, you see how you got to measure up against the best in the world, in the country. They kind of consider the SEC the NFL AAA. So it was a good measuring stick for myself. And yeah, like you said, my sophomore year, I got hurt, missed some time. That was my first full year playing corner. So that spring was huge for me. And that next year, just a little bit more polished. I actually was playing both ways in that spring, receiver and corner, wanted some more receiver depth. So I did that as well. So I think that just playing in that conference, not being afraid, your maturation as a man at 19, 20 years old, you saw the things on TV, now you're in there, you're living it, and you're doing well. And I know I was very productive there, and being started those 8-9 games, my first 8-9 games my junior year, and then didn't really play the last 3. But it was a great experience, man. Going down to Death Valley, playing against some future first rounders there, and Alabama's, the Auburns. It's a great experience. I never would take anything from that.
And then your senior year, you make a big change. You come to Alabama State, not playing just at Alabama State. You get an opportunity, and not many people get a chance to do this. You get to play for your dad your senior year of college football.
Right.
You come in and you're listed as a safety. You move back to corner after an injury. Mm-hmm. But I'm just going. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you this. Growing up in Montgomery, you go downtown to watch games. It doesn't matter if it's Alabama State, if it's high school, you just get into these things. And, I was kind of upset when you came to Alabama State because, I diehard Auburn fan growing up, married into an Auburn family. So I recognize the name right off when you got to Alabama State. But getting the opportunity to play for your dad your senior year.
Right.
Like I said, not many people get to do that at all in a career, and you get to do it your last year of college football. So just talk a little bit about that and just senior day. Senior day had to be a little different for you than it is for most.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. As older and older I get, the more and more it meant. I think subconsciously like, oh, I'm playing with my dad. And I think that being a coach's son, you've gotten to look at the business of football from a different vantage point. So being as a player, you kind of see it differently too. You kind of, a lot of times, I look through the eyes, I see the game through the eyes of a coach, a relationship through the eyes of a coach, because that's what I first saw. That was my first introduction to the game. And having 2 older brothers that played college football always, that obviously helped. But coming to state and playing with my dad, it's a bond that I think, like you said, not a lot of people get. It was a good chance for opportunity for me and my dad to get closer. He traveled; he was always gone. Like when I was growing up, and he was coaching some place, we were in another place. So it was a good time for me to play in front of my dad. And not just playing for him, but playing in front of him. It was always, you want to make your dad proud when you're out there, no matter what. Now, no matter how old I was 22 at that time. And when you're on that field, you're just that 5-6-year-old kid just wanting your dad to be proud of you, no matter what, So I think it was great for him. It was definitely great for me to be down there at Alabama State and have that chance and the opportunity to grow our relationship, man. That was great. And like I said, the older I get, the more and more I appreciate it. Now I just had a daughter, so it means even more that I had that opportunity to do that.
When you go back, and let's just go back to that 22-year-old coming off the field, anything that happens, how quick did you try to go around the head coach knowing that, hey, that's that. I'm probably going to get this a little harder than anybody else does, and I'm going to go either the back way of the sideline or I'm going to go all the way around him.
Well, I think you know what, playing for your dad and or being a coach's son, you're kind of used to, I always say, kind of all eyes on you in a sense, no matter what, even when I wasn't playing there yet. So I think I wore the weight of being an example regardless. I know that my dad wasn't going to let me slide. He didn't ever let me slide anyway. So I knew with being in front of his face, he definitely wasn't. But, my dad, ever since I was a kid, they would always instill in me sometimes, son, you got to face the music. You got to take the heat. And so I think that helped build my character even then. And kind of like you said, I just never shied away from it. I just, hey, man, this is the position that I'm in. And, you got to accept it. You wear it with a badge. So when things went wrong, you got to take it. When things go good, you got to take those too. So I don't think I felt that way too much. It was a lot of accountability on that defense with Coach Pierce and, Dupree and Leland, Crunch. Jimmy, so many guys I can name. These guys were just so hungry, man. Everybody wanted to win. And I think, that was a good time. It was just a good time. And everybody was so hungry and wanted to win. So it was just infectious, especially the defense. We'd go defense versus offense with everything. That spilled over into the weight room, competing against one another. It was very much like that.
When you go back and look, so we focused a lot being a defensive back. When you came here, you became the primary punt returner. Right. Did it feel good to get the ball back in your hands?
Oh, yeah, it was great. It was great. I loved it. I started off at my junior year at Arkansas return. I was leading the SEC for the first 4 or 5 games, and then they took me off of that. So being able to do it at state again, I relished that opportunity. Now, you as an athlete and competitor, you always think back, dang, I should have took that one to the house. I always think about that one against Alcorn State and Grambling that, man, I should have had that. Still can't let it go, man. You can't let it go. We won the game, though. So that I guess that's all that matters.
So you finished your college career, 43 games, 100 tackles. You had 5 for loss, sack and a half, 26 passes defended, 7 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 1 block kick. Out of all of that, all those numbers I just gave, I know there's got to be one that you remember just right off the top of your head out of the interceptions or even the block kick.
Oh, man. I don't know that. I tell you what, a lot of times I remember the picks that I didn't get. But you know what? Honestly, that pick I had against Troy at Troy, it was probably my best pick that I had. Like you said, I actually never played safety, so coming to Alabama State, I had to relish that opportunity, right? It was something different for me. I was like, man, this is my senior year. I don't want to be moving positions. I'm a corner. Like, why are you guys playing safety? But it was a good lesson in that because it prepared me for the NFL. Because the more you can do, they keep you around. And it wasn't about me. It was about what's best for the team. And having all 4 the best defensive backs that we had on the field at the same time, that was a way that we could do that. So saying that, having, Crunch there and Desmond Foster there and Jamie had me playing some free safety. And I remember that pick, obviously, oddly enough and strangely enough, that Tavares is standing right there. It was a deep pass down our sideline, and we had some type of zone pressure on it. It rolled to man, and I remember that quarterback threw it about 30, 40 yards down. I jumped over the receiver and jumped over him and picked it off on that sideline. And like I said, Tavares is actually standing right there as an opener at Troy, but it was the opener for 2006, and he was right there. He came down and he was just right there, picked it off right there. He's the first one to give me a 5. So that's special. It's probably out of all the ones that's special. A special one for me. The first one to state, the first one that my dad got to see. So that's probably the one that jumps out the most.
You've mentioned Tavares a couple of times, and I was going to wait till later down the road to bring it up. But let's talk about that a little bit. Your pass, kind of similar. he was your host when you got to Arkansas.
Yeah.
You both end up at Alabama State. You both end up getting drafted in the NFL. You both end up winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Just talk about him, and you know, and I'll put this memory out because you know we kind of here at Alabama State when it happened. You know, we all kind of did a double take after he passed. You know, they had the Vikings Green Bay game on. It was the Monday Night Football game that he was a backup quarterback from Minnesota. Second play of the game goes out of bounds on the sideline. The first thing you see Tavares standing there in his 7 jersey. It's like God was just talking to everybody at the same time and not letting you forget who he was. What does he mean to you, and what did he mean to you when the very first time you met?
Wow.
What does he mean to you today? And again, it's a loaded question, but this is a question that, you know, that if we went this podcast and didn't ask this question, I would want to just tear the whole podcast up and come back and do it again.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. You even asking that. I'm going to try to get this without shedding tears. I'm a passionate guy, so it might come. So just, oh man. Like you said, when I heard the news, I couldn't believe it. I dropped my phone and I kind of burst out in tears, man. Tavares was more than just a friend for me. He was somebody I can for sure confide in because I'm probably more quiet with a lot of things, but Tavares is one of those guys that, you know, he'll talk about you. We're pretty bad to get you opened up. So so that's really how me and my Tavares relationship started. Honestly, he was one of my hosts at Arkansas. Kyle Dickerson was a running back from Memphis. It was those two. They were best. They were like tight, thick as thieves. And they were the class before me. So when I got there, it was Kyle and Tavares, and got really close to Tavares. A lot of people don't know that when at the times where I was taking my college visits, my house had burnt down. So I literally only had one pair of shoes. And so Tavares is messing with me and things like that. And he was like, man, what's up with your shoes? So we started talking about it. So I ended up telling him the story of what happened. And other people came around, was trying to make fun of my shoes, and Tavares kind of interjected. And he was just always kind of like a big brother. It wasn't bad or anything. It's not like they were bullying me or anything like that, but they giving me stuff. But my shoes were covered with soot. That's all that I had at that time left. So that's our first interaction. And even then, he was just always encouraging. And I think that was the biggest thing. He was more than a friend. He was that person I could confide in, but he always was good with encouragement. And so, so even the things that I was going through at Arkansas at that time, obviously he was fully aware of how things were going. He went down a similar path, not just leaving, but having things, I would say, outside of his control, kind of make his decision for him. And it was sad because Tavares is such a relationship guy. And people, I mean, there's an outcry at Arkansas. Even though he was only there for 2.5 years, the relationships that he built with guys, teammates, they're genuine. And Tavares is a genuine guy. So, man, it was just even talking to those guys, man, it was funny. I don't say funny, but after we all found out, I don't even use Facebook and things like that, but it was a big Facebook call of a lot of the teammates at Arkansas and just reminiscing about being with Jack. And it was special. And it wasn't just a football. It was people on other teams, the softball team, the basketball team. Just so many lives that he touched there that we are all still cool. And Tavares was a lot of glue for that. That's how we kind of met. A lot of the friends that I have now is because of Tavares with such an infectious smile and personality. Like he people gravitated toward him. So he was a bridge to a lot of friendships that I have today. My circle wouldn't be as big as it is if it wasn't for somebody like him. So, like I said, it was just he was a big help and influencer for me when I came down to state. Just that guy I could talk to. Other than, my dad, it was a hard decision for me to make, and he was there for me, and that just kind of perpetuated through life. Tavares was always a hard worker. I think that's kind of why one of the bonds that we held pretty tight, because we both love to work. We love the game. And, when I was going through the draft process, he was the same thing. Always cheering me on, rooting for me. Man, you're going to get drafted, man. You're killing it. You're talking to the scouts with the Vikings about me and things of that sort. He was like, hey, man, just talking, would breathe life into me by sex, man. You're going to do it, but you're good. You're going to be better. You're better than this guy. You're going to, you know what I mean? Those kind of conversations, he would have me, text me, check on me. So, it's kind of like a big brother in the sense of, like you asked me before when I got my first pick. And, you want to be like, see, I told you. I'm cool. You know what I mean? And Tavares is never going to let it live down. No matter how good you was, he's going to find something that you did bad to make fun of you about. But he come give you props later. And having to play against him one time, I think we played against him twice, actually, when he was in Seattle. I played against him. And then when he was in Minnesota once, I played against him kind of when that dome collapsed. I don't know if people remember that dome that fell in there in Minnesota, and we had to play the game in Detroit. And so I got to talk to him then. But like I said, he was just a steady beacon of light and for me, and we just loved talking ball. And so when he transitioned out and wanted to get into coaching, he was coaching at State and helping out. It's just much of the same. And I think anybody that you ask that played with Tavares would tell you that. Guys aren't going to talk about that. Now he was always big brother. Do whatever you could do to help you out. If you wanted to drop some plays, he'd do that for you, send it to you, talk to you about it. But we would often talk about what we wanted to do later with life. Tavares had such a passion for kids and helping people. That's who he was at his core. He would do anything to help people. So, I never mentioned Alabama State without mentioning Tavares and his family, Mama Jack. Like, I know I wouldn't even maybe thought about Alabama State the way I thought about it if it wasn't for him and having a home in Montgomery, not just people and friends, but, I always know that I could be with Jack and everything would be cool, So it was a security blanket for that, for me too.
And I apologize for throwing that to you in the middle of it.
No, it's good.
I just, as many times you brought him up, I felt like it was just a good time to go ahead and bring the conversation up. But I got to ask you this: in practice, did you ever pick him off and try to give it back to him when?
Oh man, I'm not going to sit here and say that I did because he can't come and defend himself and tell you something different. Because Tavares, he's very competitive. If you did pick him off, he's going to get you back. So I honestly can't remember. I know he threw to me a couple of times when I was playing the slot and things like that. I do remember one of the first scrimmages that he had at Arkansas. I had like a deep over route, and Tavares, I don't know, he skated the rush. I didn't think he was going to throw it because I used to tease him like, man, you can't outthrow me. Obviously, Tavares had a huge arm. So I said, man, just throw it. He going to outthrow me. So he'd joke around, talking about how slow he was and how slow I was and how he's faster than me. So this particular play, I think he evaded the rush and he threw it. Threw it to me on the over route. And I didn't think he was going to throw it because I kind of slowed down and he threw it anyway. And he overthrew me. And then I came back to the huddle. And he's like, man, you slow. I thought you said I can't overthrow you. You can't. So I'm not throwing to you no more. This is obviously that's a joke, but anybody knows Tavares knows I'm probably telling the truth. So.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we talk about how things kind of mirror image the path. So the next step in the path was getting a phone call on draft day.
All right.
You got drafted the year before, then you get drafted. You go the 5th round of all places, Indianapolis.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like that would be. You're thinking South probably because you've lived Memphis down, Fayetteville down. You get drafted by Indianapolis in the 5th round. What was the phone call like when it came? And I asked because I asked Eddie and I asked for Reggie the same thing. I just want to hear your reaction to the phone call.
Oh, man, it was – wow, it's hard to put in words. I think the goal is always to get there. And you feel like you're going to get there, and you put everything towards that. But having that call hits you, the wave of emotions is wow, it's indescribable. It's kind of tsunami that hits you. It's kind of like a pat on the back, like you're doing good. That's awesome, but at the same time, the work just begun. It was an honor to get drafted by the Colts with Tony Dungy. I wear that because they always talk about characters number one on their list. I only draft certain people with certain kind of characters. So that not only spoke to me as a player, but it always spoke to me as how they value me as a person. So I still wear it as a badge of honor today. I was one of Dungy's draft picks, Napoleon. So, getting drafted there, it was a surprise. I only kind of met with them once. They're a cover 2 team. I played press man and pretty much my whole career, and played receiver and some safety. Not much zone coverage on my highlights at all. So that it was different. But I think at that time, you don't even think about that. You're just like, wow, as it's happening, it's kind of like you're out of body experience. I was watching my name pop up on the timeline for ESPN, and I think you think about everybody that helps you along that journey, and all the people I know that at State that was proud of me, the love that I received there, and not just at State, just from other HBCUs. I think that's something that is unique going to a HBCU that you won't get from any other conference or Power 5, is that even though you're not on their team, that all the guys are for you. No matter are you playing Prairie View, all that kind of thing, they always show love. It's kind of like you're one of them. Regardless of you didn't go to their school, but you're still one of them, and they root for you, and you feel that when you go to other places and play other teams, you're like, hey, they're showing me their shirts, they're wearing their HBCU shirt, and giving you encouragement. It happened when I was at the Senior Bowl and everything like that too. So it was awesome, man, to get drafted by the Super Bowl champs and having that experience that people were all pulling for me. It was great to feel that.
You get drafted by the Colts. You get drafted by Tony Dungy. You mentioned his name. What did that mean? That has to hold a special piece to you because, he wins the Super Bowl. Just his high character and who he is. What does that mean? What did that mean to you to know that's who you were going to?
I was so excited. I admired Coach Dungy being the first Black coach to win a Super Bowl, and the way he did it, how he stuck to his morals. It's strangely enough that you asked that because, and this might be naive for me, but that's how we viewed John Thompson, and God rest his soul, just passed. I know for maybe a lot of Black or minority kids, this John Thompson was kind of like the Mount Rushmore. I guess for even my years growing up watching, he was like the only one, and you saw how he always hugged his players and put his arm around players, and Eddie Robinson as well at Grambling. And that's the imagery that I saw for Black coaches. That's what I thought all Black coaches were like. I saw how my dad interacted with his players, that will always call them and ask them for advice. And I was like, wow, man, that's so cool. So my perspective of getting drafted by Coach Dungy from what I seen was just like that. And so the expectation I had for him was that. And he raise the bar for my expectations. Just amazing man and character, somebody who you wanted to discipline your life after, not just for football, but spiritually. He grew you, challenged you. Because for him, it was never about football. And that's what I think a lot of people, maybe on the outside looking in, don't get. And the people on the inside, admire about him most. Because the worlds were interchangeable. It's about who you are every day, day to day. And he would preach that. He would preach that all the time, because when times get tough, your true character reveals himself. So it was never just about the game. It's how you handled everything. It says about you. So what are you putting in your life? What are you looking at? What are you watching? Like all those things that I would never even think about are the right questions to ask myself, how to get better. Sometimes lied within the things that that you were doing or you weren't doing. So that was his focus. So you experienced that. So man, he definitely raised the bar for myself. And I think people think that he's a soft or passive guy. He really isn't. I think his approach is he's like, I'm a model the behavior of what I want to see. And I think people get that. He had high standards. You go in the coach facility, you say no excuses, no explanations. And that was Tony all the time. And he didn't have to bark orders or do anything like that because he lived it too. So when you see Peyton Manning and you see a Tony Dungy come into the office early, not being late, dressed on time, doing things like that, you just kind of fall into that. And so you just learning how to be a pro. And I'm truly thankful for his leadership, his character, and how he modeled himself. It definitely changed the way of how I thought about leadership. And he's added to my life tremendously for that. And, somebody that I still keep in touch with.
Travis Trumbull, Michael Coe here on Hornet Nation Unfiltered. And Michael, you get drafted by the Colts. Mm-hmm. You talk about Dungy, you talk about the character, you talk about the consummate bro. You had a Peyton Manning in the locker room with you, but you also had another HBCU guy that started on defense in that locker room with you, Robert Mathis.
Right.
How did that help you, even though he was at A&M?
Right.
You hate to.
I don't hold it against him all the time.
I mean, you hate to give anybody credit from A&M. So, I mean, but just those two guys. I mean, and the list can go on, but those two jump to the top of the list. One, because it's Peyton Manning, obviously, mm-hmm. and what he's done for the game. And then Robert Mathis, because he's from an HBCU. Just talk about that.
Yeah, it's almost strange again that you asked that, because those are the first two people I met in the locker room. The first day I met Peyton. Obviously, that just speaks to the humility of the team and how Coach Dungy did. And Peyton comes to my locker. I mean, I'm there for rookie camp, so most of the vets aren't even around at all. I'm going to my locker. I just got there and getting my playbook, and Peyton comes to my locker and comes and introduce himself to me like I didn't know who Peyton Manning was. He comes in, I'm locker. He comes to the side of me. He said, hey, Michael, and things like you call me by name and introduce. He's like, hey, I'm Peyton. Good looking to work with you. I'm thinking, yeah, man, cool. I'm thinking, this dude, of course I know who this is. It's Peyton Manning, so he was going to work out, but that was cool. And then about 5-10 minutes later, Mathis taps me on my shoulder, introduced himself, and talked about how he went to A&M. So he was messing with me from the jump. We always had a man law bet when State and A&M played, so it was good fun. One year I had to wear an A&M sweatshirt because I wanted to burn it. But I'm a man of my word, because that's how we are. Alabama State, we're about highest integrity. So I wore the Alabama A&M sweatshirt, but I made some money later on, so it's all good. And like you said, like I was saying there before, being an HBCU, all the guys root for you. All the guys. Antoine Bethea was from Howard, the defensive back there too. So I think we coming from HBCU, looking at those guys, they were like kind of the guys who I wanted to model myself after, even though Bethea was only a year older than me, but he was a starter on the Super Bowl team along with Bob Sanders in the secondary. And you got Robert Mathis, and he needs no introduction. So for me, those are guys that I wanted to model my game and how I worked. And those guys worked so hard. Robert is just a hard worker, so consistent. And I think we all kind of model that grittiness that comes from being at HBCU.
You talk about that first year with the Colts. Did you try to track the football down after you blocked the punt for the safety? Were you able to get the ball is the question?
Yes, I was able to get the ball. I was so hyped that I did that. I don't even know what I was thinking about what I was doing, but Dale Reed actually got the ball from me from the net, because it went through that. I didn't know that because they were punting from like the 30, so it went. I didn't know where the ball was, so I did get the ball. I do have it. Actually, just moved into the new house, so it was in my trophy case there.
I couldn't let you get by without that one, because that's the first thing anybody asks is, do you really actually get the game ball?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And they painted all nice. It was Sunday Night Football, too, I believe. So it was a big-time game. And, my phone blew up definitely after that. And, again, Robert was one of the first people to come congratulate me after that. So, he ain't a bad guy. He's just a bulldog, You ain't going to hold it against him.
We can give him a slight reprieve.
We'll give him a reprieve.
That school up 65 is how we refer to it.
Yeah, that's what we say. Yeah, that school up there.
Indianapolis, Jacksonville, New York Giants, Miami Dolphins, Dallas Cowboys. That's your professional career. But now we're going to focus on the Giants a little bit. And it's twofold. One, because we introduced you as a Super Bowl champion, obviously. Just
Yeah.
talk about that experience and just being able to know, hey, you can introduce yourself now as Michael Coe. I'm a Super Bowl champion, and knowing if I know you don't introduce yourself that way, but it's nice to be able to have that in your back pocket.
Yeah, it is. Now that how you said it, I like the way you say it. I think you would say it better than me. So I appreciate that. You know what? Being a New York Giant was amazing. It was a great team. Not just that year, just the personalities and playing for another great coach. Very similar. Coughlin and Dundee, very, very, very similar. And that's one thing I think you notice about good teams, good coaches, good players, that they're so detailed. And obviously, Dundee and Coughlin have different methods about how to go about it, but the results are the same. They've been successful. Everything that they've touched has been successful. Even, Coughlin going to Jacksonville again. It was expansion franchise, went to the AFC Championship, and then they brought him to the AFC Championship, 3 years ago when he got there, 3 or 4 years ago when he was there. So, and winning 2 Super Bowls in 4 years in New York, in the NFC East. So that culture there was amazing. And I think it's probably the best days of my life, being in New York and playing just so competitive group, man. It was, like I said, I don't even know how I could put it all into words, but it was just amazing. That whole experience, being part of a team, being part of something that's bigger than yourself. I think we hear those cliches so much that we don't truly believe them until we experience them. And I think, I know, that's what it was like being that year, that Super Bowl run. You just really felt it in the room, like no egos, nobody cared who got the credit. It was just amazing because I've never felt something that deep before because it was a team. My expectation of what a team felt like was totally different. And until I got to experience that, and I was like, wow, this is what really self-sacrificing looks like. This is what it takes. So it was great.
And not to shift away from the playing field, but you're in New York. You play for the Giants. Obviously, this week is 9/11, the remembrance of what happened. Just you being around in New York during the anniversary periods and when they happen. What did that mean, and what does that still mean to you to be around that, just the 9/11?
It hits differently. Is oddly now I was watching it this morning and I was telling my wife that, I remember playing in the game and the openings of that year we won the Super Bowl. It was at the Redskins. And we all did a big tribute. It was actually September 11th, and it was an anniversary there. And I playing for New York, it's a different feel because at the end of the day, the Giants are the blue collar team. That's New York's team, and you share that city with the fans. You share the team with the soldiers. We Coach Coughlin used to have the soldiers come around a lot. So knowing that I feel like we're all kind of one heartbeat there. I know it sounds real cliches, but it really is. The people there connect with you in a different way. So knowing that, hearing some of those stories from, actually people that work for the Giants. I had people, relatives there, friends that worked there. It becomes real. It's almost like it's something that I experienced with them. That's how kind of, that bond that gets created. So winning that Super Bowl during that 2011 season and seeing it now, it just brings back some of those memories. Things that Justin Tuck did in the community the year before. He would come out and wear the fireman hat and the axe and things of that sort. So, yeah, that city has a special bond with the Giants and vice versa. So experiencing that pain and that love loss is kind of like you were experiencing it together. So when we were able to win the Super Bowl that year on that 10-year anniversary, it was huge, man. It was big for everybody.
When you go back, and I describe it this way, after, we went to New York and for basketball games and visited the memorial while it was getting built, it's, I can describe it this way, it's eerily quiet around the blocks where the World Trade Centers used to be. It just, you hear all the traffic noise, you hear all the subways as you're getting up, and then as you get onto that block, it's just quiet.
Right.
It's just, it's eerily quiet. It kind of makes you stop and think.
Yeah.
And so for you to be a part of a team 10 years after the fact to win a Super Bowl, I can only imagine the pride that city had.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's indescribable. I think it sunk in that day that we had the parade coming down the Avenue of the Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
People, it was movie-esque, I mean, people were throwing like shredded paper down, out of their apartments, and the fans were there. It was just, like I said, you're just connected with them in a different way. And like I said, our servicemen and women were there, and like I said, Coach Coughlin always brought them around. So, like I said, we were all connected, man, and it was amazing. It truly was,
So you actually end your career in the NFL and go up to the CFL.
Yeah.
And so you escape the country and go up to Canada for a little while. How was that different? Just the different whys between the two.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool, man. I enjoyed my time up there. Coach Steinhauer is a defensive coordinator. I love playing for him, playing with those guys. And I actually played with two guys from the NFL. Well, Delvin Rose with the Saints, and then Eric Harris, who's actually starting with the Raiders now. We were all teammates up there, and to see the success that they had, it was awesome. I think when I went to Canada, I looked at it in a different way. I was at 31, I think, at that time, and I was, I think, more as a mentor. I was trying to, not obviously, be the best I could be, but at the same time, I was more intentional about trying to talk to the young guys, hey, kind of be the mentor that I wanted. So I'd ask them questions, I'd do Bible studies with some of the guys, really try to connect with them, be intentional about that. And I think, Coach Dungy modeled that, what I got in my career. So he's like, when you have that done to you, you want to try to do that for other people. Think like, man, if I wish I had known this. So I didn't want to I didn't want to meet somebody and then have to come back and say like, dang, why didn't Mike tell me that? Or, man, I wish I would have known that. So when I went up there, that's kind of what I was thinking. First time I had poutine and all that kind of thing. That was pretty neat. Different cuisines up there. It's cold too.
Let's change the topic a little bit and get to where unfortunately our world is right now. And I'm just going to ask a question, and I'm going to sit back and let you answer, because obviously, the conversations have been few and far between with some people, have really hit home with some people. Everybody has their opinion. And obviously, the words are going around. You have to be uncomfortable before you can get comfortable. And me, I guess, for me personally, obviously, I can't say that I know what anybody's feeling right now, because obviously, but being at an HBCU and being around it every day and having a piece in that conversation, when you can be in that conversation and listen, you as a young Black man in the country we live in now, not to say that it hasn't always been this way, but it has. It's just now more prevalent because of cell phones and because it's seen. And obviously you played in the city of Montgomery, which is the home of the Civil Rights Movement, but is also known as the cradle of the Confederacy. For me, I choose the Civil Rights Movement as a way to look at what city I live in. Just because that's the way I want to remember history. But for everything that's going on now, we had Jamie Coleman with us last week, a former volleyball player, talking about what it's like to be a Black woman in America. What is it for you? And just, this is your opportunity. I'm not going to stop you, interrupt you. I mean, this is your opportunity to be, that's why we call it Hornet Nation Unfiltered, because we let you go what you need to say and how you need to say it. But just the way society is, it's amazing that, and I try to tie it in today because of what it is. It's 9/11. It's amazing that an event like 9/11 can pull a country together. Mm-hmm. Nobody sees color, nobody sees gender, nobody sees anything. But now we're back to square one, it seems like. Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. It's the older that I've gotten, I was able to see a lot of things that I didn't see. Maybe I was blinded by my own ambition to play football, and I think that. No, I think as a black male, you're taught so at an early age that you have to adapt to the majority culture. And I think sometimes you can forget who you really are just because you're so used to adapting. You don't want to make certain white people feel uncomfortable. Even coaches don't act like a know-it-all. Don't ask questions so they think that you're really interested. You don't want to seem because they can take maybe you're not asking questions as you ignoring them. It's so many different things, and it's crazy that you don't realize that you do it as much as you do. Even walking into a room, or you almost sometimes have to lower yourself because you don't want somebody to feel uncomfortable, and you get so much used to that pattern of life, and that stinks, man. I sometimes now that I think back, it's like, man, I'm upset that I do that so much. You know what I mean? And especially playing in sports, majority of the coaches don't look like you, and the ones that do have an expectation of, hey. Basically, hey, the black kids are your responsibilities. Usually that's how it goes. They have one or two black coaches, and they're supposed to kind of tame the black guys. And your voice it gets smushed, but you're used to it because you know that's what you have to do. And now I am. It's a good therapy now. I can talk about some of the things that happened to me as a kid and as a teenager, as a college student. Racist things that were said to me, things that had done to me by the cops. And because you felt like most of the time nobody would believe you hold on to that, and you wear that. And now it's at a time that you maybe can. Man, like some people are actually wanting to listen to you, and that's all. I think you want in the beginning. You just want somebody to listen to you, man. I'm not making this up. I don't know what to do about these feelings. What am I supposed to say? And I think, especially athletes, they're so can be looked at as judged, and you're wearing the weight of so many things. Your family, and it's a lot of emotions, and sometimes you see an athlete snap, but I think a lot of the black athletes would tell you we kind of empathize, because it's not just about, oh, he's mad at the coach. It's not about that. It's about everything, other things that you have to suppress. A lot of times I know they tell you what to say to the media. You have to. They bully you. They can't, because they have the power to do that. And sometimes you're in yourself like, wow, why did I put up with that? And these are conversations that are now being talked about throughout the sports world and just in the day-to-day life. I think the biggest, I think, aha moment for me was just coming to state and not having to wear as much baggage. I didn't know that I carried that around as much until I came to state. Not being judged. Oh, I got earrings or I got tattoos, and you must be like this if you play football. And that doesn't really exist at state. Like, there's so much greatness there. You got guys who want to be doctors, engineers, and I would say the HBCU world is a little bit more focused than at the Power Five, I would say. You have a smaller sample size, obviously, but a lot of the students, they were so hungry to be better, so hungry to do better, so hungry to advance their life in any kind of realm. And I think you get more like-minded people. And that's just my experience. I can't say all of them are like that. I don't know. But you have this sense of you're not being judged. Nobody cares if you're wearing a white tee. Nobody thinks less of you. But I think when you're on that campus that is not an HBCU, You have to be careful if you're wearing a white tee. You get prejudged, man, and you live with that. How people are going to perceive me if I wear this hoodie or I wear this, like I said, a white T-shirt? People are going to oh, you're in a gang, or oh, you from Memphis, then so that equals this. And when I go to the HBCU, it's like, wow, man, nobody cares about that crap. The teachers want to invest in you. They talk to you. I think that was one of the biggest things that they can relate to you, and they wanted to. The teachers talk to you about life. I've had so many conversations with the teachers at State when I was there about life and not just school, because they cared about you. They cared about what you wanted to do after. I only can tell you one person at Arkansas that I had those kind of conversations with, Dr. Amos, to make sure I graduated before I left there. She was on my butt all the time, and I graduated early. But nobody else took a vested interest in Michael or what else that I was dealing with outside of football, outside of, school. And so here we are in this time in our country where those things have to get talked about. And I just beg people just to be, like the Bible says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, because nobody is telling you that you did all these things. But a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. And just even me saying that, while somebody might not even know that, Black people do that on a daily. You have to be conscious that you're not to not offend. And now growing older, it's a sucky place. And sometimes I'm ashamed that I did it. It's kind of, you're mad at yourself. Like, why did I muffle myself? Why did I not speak up? Why do I have to continuously do this? Well, I shouldn't have to. And sometimes I was watching The Last Dance and I was thinking about Dennis Rodman. I was like, you know what? I'm not saying I dye my hair, wear dresses or anything, but man, he looked so free just to be himself and did not care. And I was like, wow, like I said, I didn't realize how trapped I was until I wasn't anymore. And you don't get that anywhere else but at HBCU, man. I'm sorry. It's great other places, not to demean anything else there, but it's a sense of pride and people actually investing in you as a person, want to hear your story, want to connect with you. And so now having a child, it hits me a whole lot different. And I want to be, I'd say, over-encouraging, over-uplifting, creating a safe space for her to speak to me about things that are bothering with her. As obviously she's only about 8 weeks old, but those are things that are in my mind now. Like, I want to create that safe space. Like, I want to help put my thumbprint on who she is as a woman, who she's going to be. Not the outside world. You can say what you have to say, but, find a way to say it. Express yourself, whether that be through anything. You can find a way to express yourself that's healthy and dealing with your emotions in a healthy way. I think so much you see a lot of the football players that we don't get taught that because they're so used to keeping it down. And that's not healthy either. And so I'm glad that people are having this conversation. I'm glad that, you asked me that question, and I'm working through it still. This day, the things that I had to deal with, that I've dealt with, that I never got healed from. I mean, it's good to talk about it.
Look, we're here for any of that, which is a lot of the reason I think that, unfortunately, the instances started to happen after we named this podcast, but it seems like it's a perfect name for it. It gives you a chance to tell your story. But I have to ask this again from Michael Coe here on Hornet Nation Unfiltered. So we introduced you as Michael Coe, Super Bowl champion. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce you as Michael Coe, girl dad.
Yeah.
Look, I have one myself, so I know what it means when you have a daughter in the house. I'm just going to prepare you. She may be only 8 weeks. Mine's 11 years old now. They start taking over the house about 6.
Yeah.
They really get dad wrapped around the finger at about 6 months, 5 months.
I think it was that first look, man. I'm not going to lie to you. That first time I got to hold her like this, like a football, just her whole body felt like 3 points of pressure like that, just right here. And just seeing her and Dude, man, it's crazy because he looks like my baby picture, and that's kind of like the surreal thing. Is like, wow, I feel like I'm looking at myself. And you're right, though. The first instinct you're thinking about, I feel like then was to protect everybody. Like, wife, baby, like you just get this oversense weight of protection. It's not bad. It was great. It was very uplifting. Definitely, it's probably one of the proudest moments, or not the proudest moment of my life. Definitely comes second to the Super Bowl, not even close, to be able to have a daughter and love her and have a family, man. It's the best thing ever.
Well, I didn't mean to. Look, I'll go ahead and apologize for the emotional roller coaster I put you on today.
Oh, man, no, it's good. It's good. Hey, it's the best thing. It really is. And sadly, on that, it's one of those things that which you mentioned before, and not to dampen the mood, but this is as much as I was thinking about myself the other day, just having a daughter just there. She's having her witching hours, man. This is nuts. I was thinking about T-Jack, and I know that's probably his proudest thing. He is his dad, and that's why anytime I talk about State, I bring him up because I want his kids to know how special their dad was and how much he meant to so many people. And it's bigger than the game. Okay. And I think he would tell you that his proudest moment was being a dad. He loved being a dad. He wanted to be one so bad. So, like I said, I made it never the move, but that was just kind of right on cue there for me, and I know for him as well.
No, this was about you for people that don't know Michael Coe to get a chance to know who you are, and we got to get you back to Montgomery at some point. We got to get you to come to.
Man. Labor Day was the time this year. That was the time I was looking forward to that game.
Well, we still got spring football. So you can make room in the spring.
Yeah. Now I was looking for that game too. It's April. I saw it.
But I got to ask you this as a former State guy and a former NFL guy, and then we'll let you go because I know you've got things you've got to take care of today as well. But, NFL kicked off last night. Yeah, first flag of the season. Of course, it's an ASU guy that gets it.
Yeah.
They called Laramie Tunsil's number, but it's actually Titus that moved on the line. And then 2 plays later, I sent a text message to one of our current guys, Christian Clark, because his brother Frank Clark blew by Titus to pressure Deshaun. So Alabama State, 2 out of the first 3 plays, at least on national television.
Yeah.
Gets a little bit of love.
Yeah, get a little bit of love. Hey, I'm excited for Titus, man. You know what? I reached out to him when he was going through his process a couple of times just to, like I said, be that guy. I don't want to bother you, don't want nothing for you, but if you want to talk, try to encourage him when he can. And he's doing awesome things, man. I think people may not understand and appreciate that transition from college to the NFL, or even him switching positions. He hadn't even played it that long. When you really think about it, playing that tackle position, or you lefties at right tackle, doing that, it's not easy. You go against some of the best athletes in the world, and I'm not saying that loosely. I've seen some, I played with Jason Pierre-Paul and Robert Math. JPP, I've seen this dude do backflips for 20 yards straight. Unbelievable at 6'5", almost 300 pounds. And you wouldn't believe it if you didn't see this dude's back somersaults like that. So Titus, he's going to be great, man. He wants to be good, and he's getting better. He gets to go against J.J. Watt and take advantage of that, get all the knowledge you can. And I'm glad he's down there with Deshaun and with a new young quarterback, and hopefully they can keep mentoring him. So, yeah, man, he's going to be a good player because he wants to be one, and that's half the battle.
Well, folks, that's Michael Coe, former Alabama State Hornet, Super Bowl champion, girl dad. We will get him to Montgomery, I promise you, at some point for a football game.
Oh, definitely. I'm coming
to get him on for the podcast, but he had a great reason.
Right.
But I will tell you this before I let you go. You think you're not sleeping now? Just wait, because you'll be sleeping with one eye open for a very, very long time.
Oh, hey, I registered both my guns, man. I'm ready.
We'll end it on that one, but Michael, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. And we look forward to catching up with you again sometime soon and sometime down the road.
Absolutely. Anytime, Hornet Nation, anytime anybody reach out to me, I'm available. Any of the football team, you hit me on Twitter. definitely supporting Coach Ely, Billy Gresham, the team out there, and I'm so excited for the season and excited for Montgomery and ASU and what things are going on and progress that we're making together. It warms my heart. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hey, anytime. And folks, make sure you follow him on Twitter. He does respond back. He does like. He does retweet. He'll even shoot you a DM when you shoot him one back. He's not one of the folks that wait about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get back with you. Michael, we appreciate it. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day.
Thank you. Anytime. Can't wait till the next time.
You've been listening to Hornet Nation Unfiltered. We'll be back next week with another special guest from Alabama State's past. Until next time.